obviously, if anybody that pays attention to our ThrillShare app or our social media, there's been a heavy emphasis on the climate and culture initiatives that we're trying to put into place to not only spread the word about the great things that were already in place at Berea, but showcasing some of the new things that we're trying to accomplish to move us forward in the direction that we all want to go together. So that's led by Luke Seals, our public relations specialist, has done an excellent job and hit the ground running with some of the expectations that I have put into place for him to be able to answer that question of why Berea, but also showcase again our great staff, our great students, and our great community. For me, as a new superintendent, I do have to participate in some additional trainings through a cohort of other new superintendents. So last week I did attend an additional training down at KASA offices in Frankfurt. And in addition to that, Scott Hawkins, the executive coach through the organization, came and got a tour of Berea, and he spent the entire day with me, met the administrative team, walked around the cafeteria, just got to kind of see some of the things that I see on a daily basis, received great feedback, a lot of compliments about where we're at and the status of things that we put into place to be able to rectify some of the situations that we have found ourselves in. In addition to that, I have tried to, again, increase my exposure to the school and the school community, not just by in the classroom, but in those common areas. Prior to the board meeting, I just spent a little bit of time in the volleyball game, and if that is still going after the board meeting, I'll go back over there. I've gone to the soccer games. I've gone to as many of the different athletic events that I could try to attend so far, stopping in to see just different things that are taking place. I was invited to the JAG class with Ms. Harris to talk with them about my journey in education and what led me to be able to be the superintendent at Berea, and then practice some of those soft skills with them about public speaking, interacting with each other, shaking hands, eye contact, all of the things that we would want our kids to have to be college and career ready. It's been a great continuation of the things that we put into place starting early on. One of the most important is the breaking news that we got earlier today that our middle school and high school did win high attendance day for the region. Mr. French will expound on that a little bit. Elementary school, I think, was like 3 kids away, so if we just had 3 more kids come to school, they would have won as well. So that's huge. That speaks volumes to exactly what we're talking about. The phrasing that we put into effect is if you miss school, you miss out. And it was great because I talked to the JAG class about that, and the next day they had made a t-shirt and it was on my desk. So it was a great little gift. So that's kind of an update from the superintendent's desk. Last time, Nathaniel, you had asked what I was going to prioritize going into the next board meeting. I wanted to get into classrooms way more than what I did. Instead, attendance took that priority because it was a more pressing need. And I think that we accomplished a lot of those goals. We did have a huge illness run through the building, so our attendance rates aren't necessarily where we want them to be. But I think that enthusiasm is there, and the buy-in is there from the kids of feeling a little bit more excited about the things that we're doing. On that high attendance day, getting to school at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning to set up breakout rooms. The kids saw that and were appreciative of it. I was a little bit overwhelmed at lunch when I was walking around, and a couple kids stopped me and just thanked me, and they were gracious for the fact that I was willing to put in a little bit extra time to go into all of the classrooms and take time out of my day to set up these breakout rooms for them. So that was great. It was a great experience, and it was great just to gain exposure to me being in the school and being a familiar face, and the kids know that I'm here for them. So that's the superintendent's report. I do have one special recognition that we want to make is one of the figures that has been very prominent to the Berea community and someone that has been very highly spoken of since I started here was our librarian, Miss Leah Graham. She has given us notice that she is moving into the next phase of her career, which is retirement. So effective September 30th, she will be retiring. And so we wanted to recognize her just through as the board because of her years of service for the school. One of the phrases that gets tossed around a lot is people leaving an indelible impact on their school and their community. That's not an empty platitude, that is genuine. Ms. Graham, your presence will be felt here for years to come. The influence and impact that you've had on the literacy of our children, the exposure to high quality books and access to media in the library is bar none. So we thank you for the service that you have given to our school and our community. And while we will recognize you at a formal retirement ceremony, just as the board, we are just very grateful for you and for all of your years of service. So if you could please stand for a second. Ms. Graham, I didn't want to misspeak. How many total years has it been?
January will be 31.
31 years. That is impressive. Thank you so much.
I had one statement as well, one question for you as well. Also talked about the superintendent student advisory committee. Could you expand on that a little bit?
I have more to report at the next board meeting, but the application window closed, and I'm meeting with students individually to go over expectations before I finalize to say that you are officially on that committee. But the plan is for it to meet on October 1st and get a formal agenda, take minutes, go through all the steps. But next board meeting, I'll have a lot more to report on that.
Thank you.
And I want to say thanks for the very detailed report. It's available online in the board packet if you want to take a look at that. There is a lot more information actually in there, but it's all very helpful in understanding where our school is at this point in time. And the news looks good overall. Let's move on to the financial report.
All right, good evening. So it is September, so we're going to talk about probably the most exciting thing that everybody's been looking forward to, the working budget. We do this 3 times a year, and this is the 3rd and final time, and before too long it'll be time to start working on next year's draft budget. It never ends. We're just going to keep talking about this. So, yeah. So I'll recap August a little bit to begin with. And these are available online too. I know that these are kind of hard to see probably back there. Total revenue and interest for all accounts was $731,655.49. General fund is where I want to look a little closer today. $592,279.53 in revenue. And if we go over to our expenses, we spent $482,458.88. That has not been. I'm excited. We have spent less than we brought in this month, and after standing up here and talking about how we were doing the opposite, and some months burning through $200,000 or $300,000, I think this is excellent news. Total expenditures, it looks funny on this report, and actually in future board packets, I'm going to include a second report that ties this to the actual bank balance. This is a book balance versus the bank balance, and the way it's worded, I just think it's confusing. So you'll see there's a huge negative number sitting in accounts payable that just kind of skews the whole report, and that's because of posted liabilities. It's a lot like in your personal checking account if you were to write a check but the person hasn't cashed it yet. But it just kind of skews the whole thing. So I do, and if anybody would like to see that, I have that report for this month. I just didn't get it in time for the board packet, but I'll start including that. The two together I think will really help just bring the whole thing full circle. So anybody that gets excited about financial reports, look forward to that. So looking at food service, not a whole lot going on here because we just started school. It takes a while for bills to start coming in. There's not a whole lot of revenue coming in yet either because we haven't spent the money to ask for it back, haven't served a lot of meals. So it's still a lot like summer for food service in August. But they are still, they still have a good balance, pretty similar to where we ended at. Expenses and revenue are balanced. That's good news. And I know I'd said I'd keep a closer eye on food service, so I got a little more on that in a second. So as far as August budget updates, we spent $102,686.75 less out of our general fund than we did last August. And we also brought in a little bit more than last August, $16,571.87. And if you look at food service year over year and compare expense and revenue, they're right at where they were, $655 different. So that's something. They had dropped off a little bit through last year, so I'm going to keep an eye on them. But they were net positive for the month, and as long as they don't start to trend down, I think we're in good shape there. tentative budget, then this is the working budget, just to kind of set everything for the year. Now that we're here, we're in session, and you know what staffing looks like and all those details. So I know I showed you all this last in May. So here we are, September 30th, and then you know we'll turn around for January 31st and do next year's. So it is, it's kind of your best estimate. This is as close, you're hoping this is as close to what actually happens through the year as you could possibly get, because you do know all those details at this time. It has to balance, so all of the funds have to balance, and you have to have 2% contingency. And when I say balance, something that also kind of looks odd in these reports, it looks like you're going to spend everything you bring in the way our budget reports read because of that, but contingency is also considered an expense. So basically you know, instead of kind of, that is kind of the amount you're going to put over into a savings account. It's just the way that it reads on the report. It makes it look like, oh, we're going to spend every penny they bring in, and this is still not here. So if you look overall, and just to be conservative on this, so there are several things in the revenue from last year. If you compare year over year, it's hard to look at. I feel like we budgeted $217,000 less in actual real revenue that we can reach out and touch versus last year, and that's just an effort to be conservative. If you look at it though, it's more like 1.3, 1.4 million, and the reason for that is in last year's budget, there were some huge fund transfers because of the bond payments on the solar project, the capital funds request, and on behalf payments. And those are I know we've talked about that a little bit. Those are the monies that the state pays on our behalf for the employer's share of health insurance. We never see that money. We just have to record it in our budget and on our books. So if you pull those things out, hopefully compared to what we actually did in FY25, undershot by about $200,000. And if you look at how the revenue is broken out, it's not a whole lot different than the tentative. Our local portion's a little bit higher at 3.1 million, and that 0.1 is really because of the 4% tax increase that you all voted on. And again, not a true 4% tax increase, but revenue increase. The state portion didn't change at all. The SEEK forecast is still set at what it was. And we were looking over these numbers. We're actually hopeful that this year, with attendance trending the way it is, that as we get in the middle of the year, they might actually increase our SEEK payments. We're not going to count on that, but in prior years, it's been the opposite, so we're hopeful. And the rest of this is very much like the tentative budget. The estimate right now is just a little over $12.2 million in revenue and expense. And if you look at how that's broken out, I know I have one or two of you that ask me this frequently. So staffing is at about 85%, which leaves, we have to have the 2% in contingency. We're a little bit higher at 2.15%, and then we have 12.83% of our total budget left for all of our operating expenses. So I know we've talked a lot about the general fund, but I'll just give you a quick rundown on what what else is in this working budget. The reason we pay so much attention to the general fund is really that's where a majority of our programming, our operational expenses, all of those things come from, and it's the one we have the most control over. But we also have Fund 2, that's our special revenue fund, that's grants, title funds, and MOUs. Funds 21 and 25 are activity funds. The difference is 25 is student activity. It's a little more restricted. That has to do with our student fundraisers, sports clubs, things like that. Where Fund 21 is it's like frisk donations, great to set a goal for fundraising or whatever it is, but money doesn't leave these accounts until it comes in. So these operate a lot like a checking account. You do your fundraising, you get your money, then you go buy the thing. We don't really have long-term, the different clubs and activities do, but we don't budget these at the district level. And then Fund 51 is food service, and that's everything related to the cafeteria and our nutritional programs. That's breakfast, lunch, that's all the staffing and all the equipment in there. And that is a self-sufficient fund. When it's operating appropriately, and it is here, that's one thing we have not had any trouble with. They pay their own bills. It is a separate business organization. And then if you get on down, these are the, I guess, the more boring funds, if the others are exciting. So you have your Fund 310, that's capital outlay. And the state deposits twice a year a portion of our SEEK money into this fund. And it can be used for debt service, building maintenance, construction, purchase of land, facilities. And these are all, the Fund 310 and 320 are kind of what determines your bonding capacity and ability to do construction projects. Fund 320 is the building fund. They're very similar. The difference is Fund 320 is funded by your, they call it your FSPK. It's facility serve. I'll get the acronym wrong, but it is 5% of every $100 or 5 cents for every $100 of valuation of your property tax goes into this building fund, along with we have an additional nickel, so that goes into that portion of the property tax revenue goes into Fund 320. It's also used for debt service, and it can be used for facilities, but it's a little more restricted to major renovations. You can't just go put some new carpet in or something like that. It has to be like you're going to add a classroom, something like that. Fund 360, that is a fund that you would typically have a pretty solid budget in, but we don't have any true construction underway at the moment. There is still the remainder of our solar project in here. We'll talk about that a little bit later tonight. That is still open until we complete a change order. So that's why there is still money budgeted here, but the intention is that we'll close that out. We won't have any open construction projects, and once it moves past the BG1 phase, it won't be budgeted in Fund 360 anymore. Fund 400 isn't really a fund in the traditional sense. Basically, when you have a bond payment, you take money out of 310 and 320, put it in Fund 400, and then write a check and send it on. It's really just a tracking mechanism for what all debt service payments you've made through the year. And at the end of the budget, you have several, I put 8 and asterisks because there's a couple, there's 8, 81, your governmental assets. It's really just where we record like the value of our land, our building, school buses, and then annually we depreciate those. So not a whole lot of, we don't have a whole lot of control over those. We don't really budget them. They don't show up much at all on the budget, but they do on certain reports to show, what our building value is and things like that. So just a quick update on Fund 2, because the last time we talked about the budgets, we were in the middle of a federal funding freeze, and we only maybe knew what we were going to get for Title I, and it wasn't guaranteed, but all of the title funds have been released. We ended up getting a little bit more in Title I than we had thought. That's all good news. That's really what's allowed us to kind of start rebuilding a couple programs and making a couple changes. And our IDEA spending was right at 14 million with 13.2 in revenue, and that is why we ended in a deficit. We've all talked enough about that. But if you look at the 2026 working budget, we're looking at 12.2 revenue and expense. And if you look at what we actually spent at the 14, you can knock 1.3 off of that just because of the fund transfers and the on behalfs. Or I'm speaking off of the revenue, but we do feel like this 12.2 is very realistic. I based it off of actual, these are our actual staffing numbers. I feel really good about this budget. We put a lot of work into it, and I have a couple people I need to thank that are not here tonight that have helped me tremendously. But I think we're moving forward. And that's all. Questions?
Nice to see you smiling.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Nathan, I have one thing, comment to say basically, is thank you for the detailed information about the financial situation we're in right now and how it changed and compared to last year's and how it's been adjusting and working as you guys have with you and your team. So I want to thank you for that details and appreciate your diligence and determination to help us move forward.
Thank you. And to everyone else, I will be less detailed next month, I promise. Yes, I have to be on this one, but as painful for me, I know it was for you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we can move on to attendance and enrollment.
So I had in the work packet, I believe the number was 892. I just checked it again today, it's 895. And our attendance rate as of this morning was about 93.5. So we're doing all right there. I think the big push for attendance is gonna pay dividends, especially come October.
One question. On the trend you're seeing so far, due to all the illness and stuff going on, so the variancy is like 5% of attendance coming back and going because of illness. Is that what you're seeing in this month?
Well, it's hard to say, because the week before high attendance day, we were real low, and now we're back up the 95 range. So it really depends. I will say that I have noticed that there are fewer people missing from each school each day. And I guess I should mention that Dr. Neves and I were talking earlier today about the other school that won a lot of the high attendance day awards. It was their second day of school. That's why they had so many people there. We would have blown that out of the water too on our second day. So,
Thank you, Mr. French.
yeah.
Hi, I just want to ask, what are your current plans for mobilizing the disinfectant and minimizing the flu and other bugs that tends to wipe out our good attendance?
Yeah, I'll speak to that, is that we have worked with our custodial department just in some cleanliness efforts and sending in some additional cleanings in those classrooms where we've noticed higher rates of absences, just to make sure that we're taking the right precautions to disinfect appropriately.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on
I
then.
have one more question,
Oh,
sorry.
No, no, no.
Sorry, I've just gotten a couple of questions today, so I didn't give you a heads up, I apologize. I think our numbers are beginning
So sorry I missed the last time. My son was getting some of his first varsity minutes, so I will always try to support him the best I can. Elementary school, my whole goal as I've walked into this position is first to evaluate. Like, where are we? What's working? What's not working? The immediate response that I have saw is that our full force, and Dr. Needs has been very supportive of this, of climate and culture rebuild. I feel like that establishing a school with a strong culture and for the students is huge, because the number one goal for our elementary and our younger ones obviously is the academics and reading and math, but it's also about wanting to be here. You know, if you can build that foundation that they're having fun, they're having joy, and then there's a lot of care, and that component is in your school, then that's going to trend forward as they go forward in our school district. So that's been a huge focus of mine. A couple of notes outside of the report that I gave you. We've kind of done a facelift. I led some of that on the middle school, high school side. We've added some different graphics and different things and made sections of the building over there. If you haven't been over there before or lately, come over and check it out. It looks a lot different on that side of the building. It looks more school friendly on that side of the building. You might have seen some of these floor decals and different things that we've put in the building just to kind of make it more friendly. Just establishing that care and that fun component in academics. We've already had a couple of challenges. I'm huge on PBIS, which is Positive Behavioral Intervention System. Ours is safe, responsible, and respectful. I've been going in classes and teaching lessons on what that means and breaking those components down and how that will lead our school year and our climate and our building. Our staff attendance has been up really high. I think that we've had a lot of growth there, and I'm building relationships with our staff and our students too. I was telling, I think Dr. Neves this morning, and I shared a few minutes ago, I probably felt Friday and Monday today probably more comfortable in my position, you know, because it has been a change. And it's a lot of the same stuff, but it's, you know, you're bringing it down to different levels. So for me personally, I'm starting to kind of feel like I'm settling in. But I've seen a lot of positive, a lot of smiles, a lot of hugs, a lot of hand holding, and probably a lot of snotty nose coming for me very soon as I get acclimated. But that's the biggie right now. It's an evaluation process, meeting with teachers, looking at that academic component. But really for me, it's climate culture, just building a place that these kids want to come to every day. And speaking on Mr. French's attendance stuff, I noticed that Thursday, Friday, and today we were just out low 20s in kids, and so we're starting to see kids come back in the building, which puts us at 94% attendance. So I think we're turning in the right way. I've been really proud of what we've done so far.
I had one question. We had talked earlier about the club portion.
Yeah.
And the highlight I saw so far on social media was the pie in the face.
Oh, yeah.
My son was very, very excited that you got pied in the face by a couple other kids. And he was like, oh, I didn't get a chance yet.
Seven
Kids, that's awesome. No, but another thing is the culture you guys are creating. I can see it for my kids, or for kindergarten and fourth grade. We're talking about if you're missing, you're missing out. Like, he gets upset if he's sick. He's like, I gotta go to school. I said, you can't go spreading all strep and croup and stuff. You can't do that. You gotta stay home. Get it better and go back. But yeah, so thank you for that portion, and your detailed report is showing your initiative to highlight not just the volunteers who are here, right?
I think they're not, they're here tonight, yeah.
But volunteers as well as students throughout the day for your PBIS. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I appreciate it. That's the number one focus is making sure kids want to be here.
And the volunteer portion where you're highlighting that shows that you not only care about the community coming in to help and love on the kids, but that the culture is the community together helps the education system, which is awesome. So thank you.
And I second that motion to everything that Mr. Pointer said. Just want to talk a little bit about the highlights for September. We've had a very busy and a very productive September with both middle and high school. Some of the things I would like to highlight, and I have a couple of special guests here also tonight, but this is our Suicide Prevention Month, and as a former high school and middle school counselor, I think that is a very important piece piece. I just want to commend our middle and high school counselors for the excellent job that they did. Also, Miss Johnson was involved in that with middle school. If you could have gone in those middle school classrooms and seen what was going on with suicide prevention, all of our students were engaged. They were asking questions, and I think they're getting some really good pieces of education to help support them in that piece. Also, our current EKU interns helped with the high school suicide prevention piece, and they're also doing an excellent job. They're an additional resource in our building for students if they have issues or they just need someone to talk with. So I think it really adds to that climate and culture piece, making sure that our students have the supports in place so that they can exhibit that instructional and academic excellence, because we really need to get to that social emotional piece as well. We have begun weekly PLCs with middle school and high school, so we're really focusing heavily on that instructional piece. That is a very important piece as well. We have given the Coyote readiness exam, that's a college readiness exam, to several of our seniors, and I would like to highlight several seniors that have recently become college ready. Mason Ogren, Fiona George, Matthew Sanders, Jasmine Abrams, Layla Lady, and Gabrielle Tuttle. So that's 6 seniors that are now college ready, which are adding to our post-secondary readiness piece. We're very proud of those students. They were unable to come tonight, but did want to highlight those. Also, Gear Up sponsored a Torch Prep program. It was called Torch Prep Expedition, and that was for all senior students last week. It's helping students just to transition from senior year into either the workforce or military, or if they're going into a technical position, a technical school, or also into a 4-year college. So students really enjoyed that. They had a lot of hands-on activities and were able to be present for that. Also, we have our Green Dot and Sources of Strength. If you're familiar with that, that is a bystander training where we also educate students to focus on if they see any kind of violence, if it's dating violence or domestic violence, to really see those signs and be able to make those reports and get the supports that their families and students need. We also had class officer elections, and we extended our club rush on Friday down to middle school. They have not had clubs in several years. I think it was pre-COVID. So our middle school faculty and staff and students were really excited for the club rush. We had a blast. It was in Singleton Gym. We set up tables. Students were exposed to just a variety of clubs. There's a lot of research on students being involved in clubs. So we will be having those the last Friday of each month on a modified schedule. So finally, oh yeah, we do have a high school volleyball game during the day. That's going to be on September the 29th. Berea Community High School traveled to Pineville Independent last year, and it was just really a great team building experience for them. So we invited Pineville Independent to come back, and they're going to have a volleyball game during the day. That is approved through Dr. Neves and through KHSAA, so we will be having that in September. One of our 2 highlights are here, staff recognition. And when I think in terms of highlighting a staff member, these 2 people stood out in my mind just for being such positive figures in our school. Miss Linda Williams is our high school staff recognition today. I want to tell you a little bit about this lady. This is her 20th year at Berea Community, her 29th year to be teaching in high school, and her 35th year as a classroom teacher. She has really just done an excellent job. She is a lifelong learner. She has always been on board with the vision of instruction that we have, and just always willing to go above and beyond. You're likely to see Miss Williams here before school, and you're likely to see her after school. She was named Teacher of the Year at Owen County High School in 1989. She was also named Berea Community Teacher of the Year in 2011, and she has just a list of accolades that go along with that, including Outstanding Individual and the recipient of the Shirley Gentry Lifetime Award, and also recognized as Teacher of Excellence in 2024, selected by the superintendent. So Ms. Williams, we are very grateful for you. Our middle school recipient for staff recognition is Mr. Ben Wilson. He is not here today, but Ben has always been such a positive figure in our school. He graduated with a Master of Teaching in Special Ed from University of the Cumberlands. This is his 4th year in the teaching classroom, and he is just always engaging students in many ways, and he's just definitely a positive force in our school. So wanted to highlight those 2 staff members, and we really appreciate them for all that they do. Finally, we're just continuing to work on the climate and culture and support the excellence in academics. Any questions?
Yes, you had a highlight of one of your high school students that also helped with custodial cleaning. I think his name is Wyatt. How do you pronounce his last name? Is it Shell or Shield?
Wyatt was not on there. I don't think Wyatt was on there.
That was on yours? Okay. That was again another highlight for high school seniors, correct? So again, thank you guys for continuing to have that for your community pride. It's just continue to see a cycle, not just there, but Mr. Seals there helping us with media, a Berea graduate. So seeing that culture continue from graduate on. So it's very, very helpful that you started early with the college readiness. So thank you for that portion.
Thank you.
And now we have some time for audience comments if there are any.
I think I just want to say, like, I'm really grateful to see a normal board meeting, and I know we talk a lot as a community about more people should be here every meeting, not just kind of the exciting ones. So thank you for like increasing the accessibility. Thanks for just opening this up. And just I'm a parent. I am Mr. Wilson's wife, so he can be your trainer, sort of representing Ben. But I know we just all really appreciate seeing the school kind of weather a storm, and the seas are calming, to extend the pirate metaphor, and just really grateful that you kind of see the sun peeking through clouds, and we're going strong. So obviously I have little kids, my youngest right now in the school district, and I have a new middle school. and it's encouraging, it's hopeful, I know you might feel the same way, Sarah, it's just kind of hope and faith, and it's just encouraging to think about, okay, like we can do this, it's really good. So yeah, I'm encouraged that we're just doing things as a community, especially including increasing access to these meetings, because I know everybody's busy getting kids ready for school tomorrow and all that stuff.
Thank you. And seeing no further comments, we'll move on to the adoption of the agenda.
I motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
So first item up, we have 6 consent items this evening. The minutes from the last meeting, our financial reports, an application and agreement for the use of district property. I think that's just an amendment on one item on that, changing I think the football field and how much we charge for that. Selecting also business and community representatives for the LPC. I think the folks who've been suggested are Shad Allen and Katie Startzman. And then one last item that wasn't on mine, the approval to use for a Fall Fest and pageant request from Diane Turner with AmeriFest for the use of the Conkin Gym on October 5th. Any questions about any of those items?
Move approval. Jackie, we good?
I saw you were still making notes. I didn't want to get out ahead of you. Motion for approval.
You motion? Yes. And I second.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, 2 items, I believe, for board consideration tonight. First item up is the working budget. It's been requested by Nathan Sweet and recommended by Dr. Neves. I think folks have had a chance to look at it. Any questions on the current working budget?
For those who weren't able to read it, could Nathan explain the change order for the energy project real quick? Oh, that's the next one now? Oh, my bad.
We'll get to that in just a second. We'll
questions on the proposed working budget, or are we good to move forward with that?
I motion.
All in favor? Aye. And now on to the energy project change order. And Nathan, if you'll explain that just a little bit about the removal of the main solar system, or solar system, scope of work.
That's a different change in order, right?
That is quite the change order. So what this is, I know we've talked a lot in the past about just how long it takes from inception planning to actually putting a building onto school property. It takes a similarly long amount of time to stop trying to put a building on the school property. So what this is, it is a change. Our BG1 is still open for the whole energy project right now. So this is what we need to officially close the construction project. So it is a change order from Performance Services, basically changing the scope of work to not include rooftop solar on the rest of the building. So it basically modifies the project as a whole to just be what we've already done. So we can remove all the rest and actually close this project, take it off the books. We've had our closeout meeting with Performance Services, and that's where they brought this to us. We talked through everything, and it's all done. They were like, one last kind of official piece you need is you need this change order to be board approved. It removes it from our project, and then we're all done.
Dot the I, cross the T, move along.
Yes.
Thank you for the details. Appreciate it. I motion for approval.
I'll second.
Absolutely. All those in favor? Aye. Last item then is board member comment.
I just want to say thank you for the volunteers, the staff, the teachers, the administration during this crazy time of transfer for the first part of the school year. I know kids have been amazing energy. I see it with my kids personally, with even after school activities. So thank you for all your hard work and dedication.
No comment?
This has been a very, in some ways, normal. So that's always good. I still would like to learn more about solar, so the next time we have a cycle of opportunity, we as board members are more knowledgeable about the possibilities, because we do need to be thinking forward to through the next 7 generations with some of our decisions. So, but thank you for getting us out from under.
With that, meeting adjourned, ladies and gentlemen. Have a great evening.
Make the motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.